Shat-chakra-nirupana. Description of the 6 centers. Preliminary verse. Now, I speak of the first sprouting shoot of the yoga plant, of complete realization of the Brahman, which is to be achieved according to the Tantras, by means of the 6 chakras, and so forth, in their proper order. Commentary. He alone who has become acquainted with the wealth of the 6 lotuses by Maha-yoga is able to explain the inner principles thereof. Not even the most excellent among the wise, nor the oldest in experience, is able, without the mercy of the Guru, to explain the inner principles relating to the 6 lotuses, replete as they are with the greatness of Sha, Sa, and Ha. Now, the very merciful Purnananda Swami, wishful to rescue the world, sunk in the mire of misery, takes that task upon himself. He does so to guide sadhakas to impart tattva-jnana, which leads to liberation, and also with the desire of speaking of the union of Kundalini with the 6 chakras. Now, or Atta, the force of this particle is to show the connection of the book with the author's work entitled Sri Tattva Chintamani, the first 5 chapters of which deal with the rites and practices preliminary to Shat-chakra-nirupana. In this book he speaks of the first shoot of the realization of the Brahman. Paramananda, meaning supreme bliss, means Brahman, who, says Shruti, is eternal or nityam, and knowledge, vijnanam, and bliss, anandam. Following the tantras, or tantra nusarena, means following the authority of the tantras. First, the sprouting shoot, or pratamman kura, that is, the first steps which lead to realization of the Brahman. The first cause of such realization is achieved by knowledge of the 6 chakras, the Nadis, and so forth, which is the Tantrika Yoga Sadhana. Complete realization, or nirvaha. The Sanskrit word means accomplishment. Here, it is the accomplishment of the immediate experimental realization of the Brahman, achieved by means of the 6 chakras and other things, or Shat-chakra-nirupana, that is, attained by meditating on the 6 chakras, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, and Agnya, and other such things. On the Nadis, the Lingas, the 5 elements, Shiva, Shakti, etc., connected with the 6 chakras in their order. The order, or krama, is the first meditation on them, next awakening of Kundalini, and her passage to the Brahma lotus, and then her return therefrom, the union of Shiva and Shakti, etc., and so forth. Order, or krama, by which it is attained, and this is the same as yoga practice. The author in substance says, I speak of the first step, that's Ankura, of the practice which is the first cause of the immediate or experimental realization of the Brahman, brought about by a knowledge of the 6 chakras as is laid down in Tantras. Verse 1. In the space outside the Meru, placed on the left and the right, are the 2 Shiras, Shashi and Mihira. The Nadi Shushumna, whose substance is the threefold gunas, is in the middle. She is in the form of moon, sun and fire. Her body, a string of blooming dastura flowers, extends from the middle of the khanda to the head, and the vajra inside her extends, shining from the medra to the head. Commentary. Now, yoga, like that which is about to be spoken of, cannot be achieved without a knowledge of the 6 chakras and the nadis. The author therefore describes the relative nadis in this and the following 2 verses. In the space outside, that's Vahya Pradesh, the 2 nadis, Shashi and Mihira. Shashi is Chandra or moon. Mihira is Surya or sun. These 2 nadis, which are in the nature of the sun and moon, are the nadis Ida and Pingala. Meru. This is the Meru Danda, the backbone or spinal column extending from the Mula, meaning root, or Muladhara, to the neck. This will be explained later. Placed on the left and the right, that's Savya Dakshe Nishanne. These 2 nadis, that's the Ida, is placed on the left and the Pingala on the right of the Meru, says the Bhuta Shuddhi Tantra. The Sammohana Tantra speaks of their likeness to the sun and moon as follows. The Ida Nadi on the left is pale and is in the nature of the moon, or Chandra Varupani. She is in the Shakti Rupa Devi, and the very embodiment of nectar, or Amrita Viragha. On the right is the masculine Pingala in the nature of the sun. She is the great Devi, Rudra Mika, and is lustrous red like the filaments of a pomegranate flower. These 2 nadis go upward singly from the Mula, that's the Muladhara, and having reached the Agnya Chakra, proceed to the nostrils. The Yamala says, on its, that's the Meru's, left and right are Ida and Pingala. These 2 go straight up, alternating from left to right and right to left, and having thus gone round all the lotuses, these auspicious ones proceed to the nostrils. The above passage shows the twofold and differing positions of the 2 nadis. They go upward, alternating from left to right and right to left, and going round the lotuses, they form a plait and go to the nostrils. Elsewhere, they are described as being placed like bows. Know that the two nadis, Ida and Pingala, are shaped like bows. Also, she who is connected with the left scrotum is united with the Sushumna, and passing near by the right shoulder joint, remains bent like a bow by the heart, and having reached the left shoulder joint, passes on to the nose. Similarly, she that comes from the right scrotum passes on to the left nostril. These two nadis which come from the left and right scrotum, when they reach the space between the eyebrows, make with the Sushumna a plaited knot of 3 or Triveni, and proceed to the nostrils. They are also thus described as: in the Ida is the Devi Yamuna, and in the Pingala is Saraswati, and in Sushumna dwells Ganga. They form a threefold plait, united at the root of the Dvaja. They separate at the eyebrows, and hence it is called Triveni Yoga, and bathing there yields abundant fruit. Whose substance is threefold gunas, or Tritaya Gunamayi. This is, the compound word here used is capable of different interpretations. Reading guna to mean a string, it would mean made up of 3 strings, that is Sushumna, Vajra, and Chitrini. These 3 form one, but considered separately, they are distinct. If guna be read to mean quality, then it would mean possessed of the qualities sattva, rajas, and tamas. Now the substance of Chitrini is sattva, that's sattva gunamayi, of Vajra, rajas, and of Sushumna, tamas. In the middle, madhye, that is, in the middle or inside the meru. She who is inside the meru from the mula to the region of the Brahmarandra. Tripura Sara Samuchachya says, she who is within the hollow of the danda, extending from the head to the adhara, that is Muladhara, and so forth. Some persons rely on the following passage of the Tantra Chudamani and urge that it shows that the Sushumna is outside the Meru. O Shiva, on the left of Meru is placed the Nadi Ida, the moon nectar, and on its right the sun-like Pingala. Outside it, Tadvahe, and between these two, Teyor Madhye, is the fiery Sushumna. But this is merely the opinion of these persons. Our author speaks in the following verse of the lotuses inside the Meru, and as the Sushumna supports these, she must need be within the Meru. Form of moon, sun, and fire. That's Chandra, Surya, and Agni Rupa. Chitrini is pale and is the form of the moon. Vajrini is sun-like and hence has the luster of the filaments of the pomegranate flower. Sushumna is fiery and hence red. The Buddha Shuddhi Tantra, in describing the Sushumna, supports these three descriptions. Sushumna is the outermost and Chitrini the innermost. Inside it, at a height of 2 fingers' breadth, is Vajra, and so is Chitrini. Hence, it is that Sushumna is Triguna. She is tremulous like a passionate woman. She is the receptacle of the 3 gunas, sattva and others, and the very form of moon, sun and fire. From the middle of the Kanda to the head. Kanda Madhyak Chirastha. Kanda is the root of all the Nadis. It is spoken of as follows: 2 fingers above the anus and 2 fingers below the Mehndra is the Kanda Mula, in shape like a bird's egg, and 4 fingers' breadth in extent. The Nadis, 72,000 in number, emanate from it. The Nadis come out of this Kanda. Shirastha, meaning placed in the head. By this is to be understood that she ends up in the middle of the lotus of 12 petals, which is near the pericap of the Sahasrara, hanging downwards in the head. See the opening verse of Paduka-Panchaka. I adore the 12-petaled lotus that is the crown of the Nadi along the channel, within which the Kundalini passes. As the Chitrini ends here, her container, Sushumna, also ends here. If it is to be taken to mean that she exists above the Sahasrara, then there will be a contradiction to the description in the 40th verse, where the Sahasrara is spoken of as shining in vacant space. If Sushumna passes over it, there can be no vacant space. There are some who contend that all 3 Nadis, Ida, Pingala and Sushumna, are inside the Meru, and quote the following as their authority from the Nigama Tattva Sara. The 3 Nadis are said to be inside the Meru, in the middle of the back. But this cannot be. All the Tantras say that the Ida and Pingala are outside the Meru, and on the authority of these, our author speaks of their being outside the Meru. Further, if they were inside the Meru, they could not be bow-shaped and touch the hip and shoulder joints. The Nigama Tattva Sara by the 3 Nadis apparently means Sushumna, Vajra and Chitrini, and not Ida and Pingala and Sushumna. The position of the Sushumna from the Muladhara to the head is thus described. Sushumna goes forward, clinging like a Chavya Kripa to the Meru, and reaching the end of the neck. O beauteous one, she emerges and deflects, and supporting herself on the stalk of the Shankini, goes toward the region of Brahman, that's Brahma Sadhana. Also, the other 2 are placed like bows. Sushumna is the embodiment of pranava. Emerging from the backbone, she goes to the forehead, passing between the eyebrows and united with Kundalini. She, with her mouth, approaches the Brahmarandra. By this it becomes apparent that the backbone extends to the end of the back of the neck, supporting herself on the stalk of Shankini. Shankini is thus described. Ishwara said, Saraswati and Kuhu are on either side of Shushumna. Gandhari and Hashtijiva again are on the right and left of Ida. And again, between Gandhari and Saraswati is Shankini. The Nadi named Shankini goes to the left ear. And also again, Shankini, emerging from the hollow of the throat, goes obliquely to the forehead, and then, O Ambika, united with and twisting round Chitrini, she thereafter passes to the head. Hence she, that is Shakini, starts from Kandamula, proceeds between Saraswati and Gandhari, and reaches the throat, and then one of her branches proceeds obliquely to the left ear, and the other goes to the top of the head. Vajra inside her, that's Madhyam Shya, that is inside Shushumna. There are some who contend that the Merudanda extends from the feet to the Brahmarandha, and quote in support of the following passage from Nigama Tattvasara. The bony staff which goes from the feet to the Brahmarandha is called Merudanda of the 14 lokas. But the backbone is the spinal bone, that's Merudanda. It extends from the Mula Kanda to the end of the back of the neck. This is self-evident, and no authority can alter things which are patent. Moreover, it is impossible for one piece of bone to go to the end of the feet, for then the legs could not be bent or stretched. The Meru, therefore, does not go below the Muladhara. The meaning of the passage from the Nigama Tattvasara becomes clear if we read pada to mean leg and not foot. Beginning of the pada, that's padadi, would then mean where the legs begin. The sense would be that the bone which controls the whole body from the feet right up to the head is the Merudanda, which is like a stick and begins from the penis 2 fingers breadth above the Mula Kanda. The Bhuta Shuddhi Tantra says, within it and 2 fingers breadth above it are Vajra and Chitrini. Verse 2. Inside her is Chitrini, who is lustrous with the luster of the pranava, and attainable in yoga by yogis. She, that is Chitrini, is subtle as a spider's thread, and pierces all the lotuses which are placed within the backbone, and is pure intelligence. She, Chitrini, is beautiful by reason of these, that's the lotuses, which are strung on her. Inside her is the Brahma Nadi, which extends from the orifice of the mouth of Hara to the place beyond where Adideva is. Commentary. Inside her, Tanmadhye, that is, inside Vajra. Lustrous with the luster of Pranava, that is, Pranava Velasita. She absorbs a luminous character of the Pranava in Agnya Chakra when she passes through it. Like a spider's thread, Luta Tantupamya, She is fine like the spider's thread. She pierces all the lotuses. Sakala Sarajan Meru Madhyatara Stan Bhitva Dedipyat. She pierces the pedicap of the 6 lotuses and shines like a thread strung with gems. There is a passage quoted as from the 4th Kanda of the Kalpa Sutra and explained to mean, in the hollow channel within Chitrini are 6 lotuses, and on the petals of these the Mahadevi Bhujangi move about. But this text, as it has been given a plural verb to Bhujangi in the singular, seems to be incorrect. But if it be said that it is the word of Shiva, and that the plural is used as singular, it would then have to be understood that the locative in the phrase, in the channel within Chitrini, is used as an instrumental, and the correct meaning of the passage would in that case be that Bhujangi goes along the channel within Chitrini, and as she passes in her upward movement, she pierces the chakras and moves about on the petals of the chakras. Or it may also mean that Bhujangi goes along the hollow of the Chitrini and moves about on the petals of the 6 lotuses within Shushumna, and at length goes to Sahasrara. From the above authority, it is not to be concluded that the 6 lotuses are in the hollow of Chitrini. Inside her, Tan Madhye, within Chitrini is Brahma Nadi. The word Nadi here means a channel or vivara. It is derived from the word nad, motion. The word Brahmanadi means the channel by which Kundalini goes from the Muladhara to the place of Paramashiva. Kundalini is a form of the Shabda Brahman. From this it is certain that the inside of Chitrini is hollow, and there is no other Nadi inside her. The orifice of the mouth of Hara, Hara Mukha Kuhara. The orifice at the top of the Swayambhu Linga in the Muladhara. Adideva is the supreme Bindu in the pericap of the 1,000-petaled lotus. The rest of the verse requires no explanation. Verse 3. She is beautiful, like a chain of lightning, and fine like a lotus fiber, and shines in the minds of the sages. She is extremely subtle, the awakener of pure knowledge, the embodiment of all bliss, whose true nature is pure consciousness. The Brahmadwara shines in her mouth. This place is the entrance to the region sprinkled by ambrosia, and is called the knot, as also the mouth of Shushumna. Commentary. By this sloka, she is further described, fine like a lotus fiber, and shines, lasat tantu rupa. That is, she is luminous, albeit fine like the fiber in the lotus stalk. She shines because of the presence of Kundalini. Embodiment of all bliss, Sakala Sukha Mayi. Sukha is here used as the equivalent of Ananda, which means spiritual bliss. She is the source of all bliss, whose true nature is pure consciousness, Shuddha Bodha Swabhava. Shuddha Bodha is Tattva Jnana, she whose nature is pure consciousness. Brahma Dwara is the entrance and exit of Kundalini in her passage to and from Shiva. Her mouth, Tadasye, the mouth of Brahma Nadi, the orifice in the mouth of Hara. This place, Tadetat, that is, the place near the entrance. The entrance to the region sprinkled by ambrosia. Suddha Dharagamya Pradesha, the region which is sprinkled by ambrosia, that's Suddha, which flows from the union of Parama, Shiva, and Shakti, and which is attained by the help of Shiva and Shakti dwelling in the Muladhara. Not Granthi Sthanam, the place of the union of Shushumna and Kanda, is called, that is, by those versed in the Agamas. Verse 4. Now we come to Adhara lotus. It is attached to the mouth of the Shushumna and is placed below the genitals and above the anus. It has 4 petals of crimson hue. Its head or mouth hangs downwards. On its petals are the 4 letters from Va to Sa of the shining color of gold. Commentary. After having described the Nadis, the author describes the Muladhara Chakra in detail in 9 verses, beginning with the present. It is attached to the mouth of Shushumna. Shushumna Sialagnam. The petals are on 4 sides of the place where the Kanda and Shushumna meet. Below the genitals and above the anus. Dvaja Dogu Dordavam. From below the root of the genitals to Shushumna. 4 petals of crimson hue. Chatushohnapatram. The 4 petals are red in color. Shonu is the crimson color of the red lotus. On its petals are the 4 letters from Va to Sa. Vakara Disantariam Veda Varanya. The 4 letters are Va, V-A, Sha, S-H-A, and that's palatial. Sh, that's S-H-A, cerebral, and Sa, S-A. On each of the petals of the 6 lotuses, the letters of the alphabet are to be meditated upon, going around in a circle from the right. Dakshina Vartana. Vishvasara Tantra. The petals of the lotuses are known to contain the letters of the alphabet and should be meditated upon as written in a circle from the right to the left. Verse 5. In this lotus, in the square region or chakra of Prithvi, surrounded by 8 shining spears. It is of a shining yellow color and beautiful like lightning, as is also the bija of Dhara, which is within. Commentary. In the pericap of this lotus is the square region of Prithvi, which is described in detail. On the 8 sides of the square are 8 shining spears. The region is of yellow color. O thou of dulcet speech, in the Muladhara is the 4-cornered region of Dhara, yellow in color and surrounded by 8 spears, like Kulachalas. Kulachala is by some interpreted to mean the breast of a woman. According to this view, the tip of these spears are shaped like a woman's breasts. Others understand by the expression the 7 Kula mountains. From the Nirvana Tantra. O Devi, the 7 Kula mountains, Nilachala, Mandara, Chandrasekhara, Himalaya, Suvela, Malaya, and Supravata, dwell in the 4 corners. According to this notion, the 8 spears are likened to the 7 Kula mountains on earth. Within it, Tad Anke, inside the region of Prithvi, Dhara Mandala, is the bija of earth, lung. This bija is also of a yellow color. The phrase shining yellow color, lasat pita varna, is descriptive of the bija also. So it has been said, inside it is the Aindra bija, meaning bija of Indra, of a yellow color, possessed of 4 arms, holding the thunder in one hand, mighty, and seated on the elephant Airavata. Verse 6. Ornamented with 4 arms, and mounted on the king of elephants, he carries on his lap the child creator, resplendent like the young sun, who has 4 lustrous arms, and the wealth of whose lotus face is 4-fold. Commentary. This is the dhyana of the Dhara bija. The bija of Dhara or Prithvi is identical with that of Indra. On his lap, Tad Anke, that is, in the lap of Dhara bija. The sense of this verse is that the creator Brahma dwells in the lap of Dhara bija. By Anke or lap is to be understood the space within the Bindu or Dhara bija. In the Muladhara is the Dhara bija, and in its Bindu dwells Brahman, the image of a child, the king of the immortals, is mounted on an elephant. The above quoted passage, it is urged, means the king of the immortals is in the lap of Dhara bija. But according to our view, as the Dhara bija and the Indra bija are the same, their identity is here spoken of. For it is also said, the letters of the mantra are the Devata. The Devata is in the form of the mantra, mantra rupini. Also from Nirvana Tantra. O beautiful one, the Indra Bija is below the genitals. The very perfect and beautiful dwelling of Brahma is above Nada. And there dwells Brahma the Creator, the Lord of creatures. By above Nada in this passage, we must understand that the abode of Brahma is within the Bindu, which is above Nada. Some read left of the genitals, and thus there is a difference of opinion. The Sharada says that the adharas are various according to different views. 4 lustrous arms, Lasad Veda Bahu. Some interpret the Sanskrit compound word to mean in whose arm shine the 4 Vedas, Sama and others, thus thinking of Brahma as being possessed of 2 arms only. But Brahma is nowhere described as holding the Vedas in his hands, and that he should be meditated upon as having 4 arms is clear from the following passage in Bhuta Shuddhi Tantra. Know, O Shiva, that in its lap is the 4-armed, red-colored child, Brahma, who has 4 faces and is seated on the back of a swan. The wealth of whose lotus face is 4-fold. Mukambho Jalakshi Chatur Bhaga Bheda. By this is to be understood that Brahma has 4 faces. Some read the passage as Chatur Bhagaveda. Thus read, the meaning practically is the same. If the Sanskrit text is read Mukham Bhoja Lakshmi Chatur Bhagaveda, the meaning would be the 4 different Vedas enhance the beauty of his lotus faces, as opposed to the opinion that Brahma holds the 4 Vedas in his arms. The Vishvasara Tantra in the Brahmi Dhyana says, meditate on Brahmi, as red in color and garbed in the skin of the black antelope, and as holding the staff, gourd, the rosary of Rudraksha beads, and making the gesture dispelling fear. And in the Saptashasti Stotra, it has been said that Shiva and Shakti are to be meditated upon as having the same weapons. Also, from Yamala, the Adimurta should be meditated upon as making the gestures of dispelling fear and granting boons, as also holding the Kundika and rosary of Rudraksha beads, and adorned with fine ornament. This is how she should be meditated upon. The rest requires no explanation. Verse 7. Here dwells the Devi Dakini by name. Her 4 arms shine with beauty, and her eyes are brilliant red. She is resplendent, like the luster of many suns rising at one and the same time. She is the carrier of the revelation of the ever-pure intelligence. Commentary. In this shloka, the author speaks of the presence of Dakini Shakti in the Adhara Padma. The sense of this verse is that in this lotus the Devi Dakini dwells. She is the carrier of the revelation of ever pure intelligence. Prakasham Vahanti Sada Shuddha Buddhe. That is, she is Dakini Shakti, enables the yogi to acquire knowledge of the tattva, that is tattva jnana. By meditating on her, which is part of the yoga practice, one acquires tattva jnana. This Devi is the presiding divinity of this region. The mouth, the lotus, has the letters Va, Va, Sha, Sha, and that's palatial, Sha, Sha, and that's lingual, and Sa, Sa, and is presided over by Dakini. Dakini, Rakini, Lakini, Kakini, and also Shakini and Hakini are the queens of the 6 respective lotuses. Elsewhere is given the dhyana of Dakini thus: meditate on her, the red-eyed Dakini in the Muladhara, who strikes terror into the heart of Pashus, who holds in her 2 right hands the spear of Khatvanga, and in her 2 left hands the sword and a drinking cup filled with wine. She is fierce of temper, and shows her fierce teeth. She crushes the whole host of enemies. She is plump of body, and is fond of payasana. It is thus that she should be meditated upon by those who desire immortality. Elsewhere she is described as bright, with a tilaka of vermilion, her eyes ornamented with kali, rheum, clad in black, antelope skin, and decked with varied jewels. On the authority of the above passage, which occurs in Dhyana of Dakini, she should be meditated upon as clad in black antelope skin. The Devas Brahma and others are to be meditated upon as having their faces down or up according to the frame of mind or bhava of the sadhaka. The Shaktananda Taragini quotes the following from Maya Tantra. Parvati asked, "How can they be in the lotuses which have their heads downward bent?" Mahadeva said, "The lotuses, O Devi, have their heads in different directions. In the life of action they should be thought of as having their heads downward, but in the path of renunciation they are always meditated upon as having their heads upward turned. The rest is clear." Verse 8. Near the mouth of the Nadi called Vajra, and in the pericap of the Adhara lotus, there constantly shines the beautifully luminous and soft, lightning-like triangle, which is Kamarupa, and known as Tripura. There is always and everywhere the Vayu called Kandarapa, who is of a deeper red than the Bandhujiva flower, and is the lord of beings, and resplendent like 10 million suns. Commentary. In this shloka is described the triangle in the pericap of the Mula Chakra. Near the mouth of the Nadi called Vajra. Vajrakya Vaktra Deshe. The mouth of the Vajra is 2 fingers above that of the Shushumna and below the base of the genitals. The triangle known as Tripura. Trikonam Tripurakyam. The triangle is so called because of the presence of the Devi Tripura within the Ka, Ka, inside the triangle, and the letter Ka, Ka, is the chief letter of the Kama Bija. Shaktanada Taragini says, inside dwells the Devi Sundari, the Parva Devata. Soft, that is, oily and smooth. Kama Rupa, that by which Kama is caused to be felt. It is Madana Garatmaka. The triangle should be known as the charming Shakti Pita. This triangle is above the Dhara Vija. Some Mohana Tantra, speaking of Dhara Vija, says, above it, that's the Dhara Vija, are 3 lines, Vama, Jesta, and Raudri. Kandarpa. The presence in the Trikona of the Kandarpavayu is here spoken of. It is everywhere, that is extended throughout the triangle. Lord of beings, Jivesha, so called because the continuance of life depends on Kama and Kandarpa. It is said that in the Kanda or heart region dwells Prana, and Apana dwells in the region of the anus. The air in the region of the anus is Apana, and Kandarpa Vayu accordingly is a part of Apana Vayu. It is also said that Apana draws Prana, and Prana draws Apana, just as a falcon attached by a string is drawn back again when he flies away. These two, by their disagreement, prevent each other from leaving the body, but when in accord, they leave it. The 2 Vayus, Prana and Apana, go different ways, pulling at one another, and neither of them, therefore, can leave the body. But when the 2 are in accord, that is, go in the same direction, they leave the body. Kandarpa Vayu, being a part of Apana, also pulls at Prana Vayu, and prevents the latter from escaping the body. Hence, Kandarpa Vayu is the Lord of life. In verse 10, the author describes Kundalini as she who maintains all the beings of the world by inspiration and expiration. He himself has thus said that Prana and Apana are the maintainers of animate being. Verse 9. Inside it, the triangle, is Swayambhu in his linga form, beautiful like molten gold, with his head downwards. He is revealed by knowledge and meditation, and is of the shape and color of a new leaf. As the cool rays of lightning and the full moon charm, so does his beauty. The Deva who resides happily here, as in Kaishi, is in forms like a whirlpool. Commentary. In this verse, he speaks of the presence of the Swayambhu Linga in the triangle, Swayambhu in his linga form, Lingarupi Swayambhu. That is, here dwells the Shiva Linga whose name is Swayambhu, beautiful like molten gold, Druta Kanaka Kala Komala. His body has the soft luster of molten gold. His head downwards. Paschimasya. Kali Kulam Rita says, there is placed the great Linga Swayambhu, who is ever blissful, his head downward, active when moved of Kama Bija. Revealed by knowledge and meditation, Jnana Dhyana Prakasha, whose existence is apprehended by us by knowledge, that's jnana, and meditation or dhyana. By jnana we realize the attributelessness, and by dhyana the attribute fullness of the Brahman. Such is Swayambhu. The shape and color of new leaves. Pratama Kishlaya Kara Rupa. By this is conveyed the idea that the shape of the Swayambhu Linga is tapering, like a new unopened leaf bud. Like the pistil inside the champaka flower, it is broad at the bottom and tapers to a point at the end. This also shows that the Swayambhu Linga is of a blue-green color. Shaktananda Tarangini says, O Maheshani, meditate inside it, the triangle, upon the Swayambhu Linga, who holds his head with an aperture therein downward, the beautiful and blue-green Shiva. In the Yamala occurs the following passage. Meditate upon the very beautiful celestial triangle, Trikona, in the Muladhara. Within its 3 lines is Kundali, charming like 10 million lightning flashes in the dark blue clouds. This passage, which describes Kundali as lightning in the dark blue clouds, goes to show that the Swayambhu Linga is also blue, but Nila, or blue, and Shyama, or dark green, belong to the same category, and hence there is no contradiction. As cool rays of lightning and of the full moon charm, so does his beauty. Vidyut Purnendu Bimba Prakara Kara Chaya Singh Dhyasan Tanahasi. As the strong light of the moon and of the lightning emits no heat, so is the light which emanates from the Swayambhu Linga cool and pleasing, bringing gladness into the hearts of men. The Deva who resides happily here, as in Kashi. Kashi Vasivalasi. Kashi is the place sacred to Shiva, his favorite abode. By these 2 adjectives it is implied that the Swayambhu in the Adhara lotus is happy as he is in his form of Visveshvara in Kashi, and he is pleased to be here as at Kashi. Vilasi may also mean amorous, because it has been said above, moved by Kama Bija. Vilasi is indicative of his lordship of the universe. Like a whirlpool, Sarid Avrata Rupa Prakara, the whirling water on its outer edge creates a depression in the middle, and the center thereof is raised like the shape of a conch. This Swayambhu is placed on the Kama Bija. This has been said in Kali Kulamitra. Surrounded by the filaments of the lotus is the Shrigata, and over this is the beautiful Mahalinga Swayambhu, with an opening at the top, ever happy, holding his head downwards, and active when moved by the Kama Bija. Elsewhere the following occurs. There in the pericap is the above-mentioned Dakini and the triangle Trikona, within which is a small aperture, and the red Kama Bija. There is also the Swayambhu Linga, his head downward and of a ruddy hue. This is, however, a different conception. Verses 10 and 11. Over it shines the sleeping Kundalini, fine as the fiber of the lotus stalk. She is the world bewilderer, gently covering the mouth of Brahmadwara by her own. Like the spiral of the conch shell, her shining snake-like form goes 3.5 times around Shiva, and her luster is as that of a strong flash of young, strong lightning. Her sweet murmur is like the indistinct hum of swarms of love-mad bees. She produces melodious poetry and bandha and all other compositions in prose or verse in sequence or otherwise in Sanskrita, Prakrita, and other languages. It is she who maintains all the beings of the world by means of inspiration and expiration, and shines in the cavity of the root Mula lotus like a chain of brilliant lights. Commentary. In these 2 verses, the author speaks of the presence of Kundalini Shakti in the Swayambhu Linga. It is the Devi Kundalini who maintains the existence of individual beings, Jiva, Jivatma, by the functions of inspiration and expiration. She places them in individual bodies. She produces the humming sound resembling that of a swarm of bees, and is the source of speech. And she, as described below, dwells in the triangular hollow in the pericap of the Muladhara lotus, resting upon the Swayambhu Linga. Shines fine as the fibers of the lotus stalk. Bisa tantu sodar lasat shukshama. That is, she is fine like the fiber of the lotus stalk. World bewilderer, Jagan Mogini. That is, she is Maya in this world. Gently, Madhuram. The mouth of Brahmadwara, Brahmadwara Mukha, the hollow on the head of Swayambhu Linga. A strong flash of young lightning, Navina Chapala, Mala Vila Sapada. Possessed of the wealth of a strong flash of young lightning, in youth everything and person shows the characteristic qualities in a state of vigorous perfection. Hence, a young flash of lightning means strong flash. She produces melodious poetry. Komalakavya, Bandha Rachna, Bheda Tibheda Karama. This shows the mode in which words are produced. The soft music produced by a combination of soft and melodious words descriptive of beauty, virtue, etc., in all its modulations, resulting from perfecting of composition and regularity and irregularity in the disposition of words. By bandha here is meant pictorial, poetical composition in prose or verse, arranged to look like a lotus, a horse, and so on. And by atibheda this author alludes to all the words in Sanskrita and Prakrita. By using the word order or sequence, the author emphasizes the fact that these compositions and words come out in the order laid down in the Shastras. Kundalini produces both at random and in set forms. Kundalini produces words, Sanskrita and Prakrita, distinct and indistinct. She is the source from which all sound emanates. From the Sharada. Upon the bursting or unfolding of the Supreme Bindu arose unmanifested sound, that's Avyaktarava. It assumed the form of Kundali in living bodies and manifested itself in prose and verse by the aid of the letters of the alphabet. By prose and verse all forms of speech are meant. It has distinctly been said in Kadimata, by the actions of the Ichacha Shakti, of the Atma acting on Pranavayu, there is produced in the Muladhara the excellent nada or sound called para. In its ascending movement it is thrown upward, and opening out in the Swadhisthana it receives the name of Pashyanti, and again gently led up as before mentioned, it becomes united in the Anahata with Buddhi Tattva and is named Madhyama. Going upward again, it reaches the Vishuddha in the throat, where it is called Vaikhari, and from there it goes on toward the head, the upper part of the throat, the palate, the lips, the teeth. It also spreads over the tongue from root to tip, and the tip of the nose, the remaining in the throat, the palate and the lips produced by the throat and the lips, the letters of the alphabet from A to Ksha, Ksha. It is needless to quote more. Elsewhere has Kundalini been thus described: meditate upon Devi Kundalini, who surrounds the Swayambhu Linga, who is Shyama and subtle, who is creation itself, in whom are creation, existence, and dissolution, who is beyond the universe and is consciousness itself. Think of her as the one who goes upwards. It also says, meditate upon the Devi Kundalini as your Ishta Devata, as being ever in the form of a damsel of 16 in the full bloom of her first youth, with large and beautifully formed breasts, decked with all the varied kinds of jewels, lustrous as the full moon, red in color, with ever restless eyes. Red as regards Sundari, so says the author of the Shaktananda Taragini. Kundalini, as a matter of fact, should always be meditated upon as red in color. Shyama, which ordinarily denotes color, is here meant to signify something different. In all tantras and all tantrika collections, Kundalini is described to be like lightning. Shyama is the name given to a woman who is warm in winter and cool in summer, and the luster of molten gold. This is what is meant here, and color is not intended. Thus, the apparent discrepancy is removed. The Kankala Malini Tantra describes Kundalini in the Brahma Dvara, and therefore the piercing of the chakras, thus: She, the Brahman itself, resplendent like millions of moons, rising at the same time, has 4 arms and 3 eyes. Her hands make the gestures of granting boons and dispelling fear, and hold a book and a veena. She is seated on a lion, and as she passes to her own abode, the awe-inspiring one assumes different forms. Verse 12. Within it reigns dominant Para, the Shri Parameshwari, the awakener of eternal knowledge. She is the omnipotent Kala, who is wonderfully skillful to create and is subtler than the subtlest. She is the receptacle of that continuous stream of ambrosia which flows from the eternal bliss. By her radiance it is that the whole of this universe and this cauldron is illumined. Commentary. He is now speaking of the staff-like Para-Shakti, who is like a straight thread above Kundalini, who is coiled round Swayambhu Linga. The Shri Parameshwari, whose radiance illumines this universe and its cauldron, dwells in the Swayambhu Linga, above where Kundalini is coiled, and holds supreme sway. Omnipotent Parama. She is the Maya who is able to do that which is impossible. Kala is a form of Nada Shakti, Kala Nada Shakti Rupa, and is separate from Kundalini. The Shaktananda Tarangini says, Kala is Kundalini, and she, Shiva has said, is Nada Shakti. And it has also been elsewhere said, above it, meditate in your mind on Chitkala united with I, or Lakshmi, who is tapering of shape like the flame of a lamp, and who is one with Kundali. From the Kailaka Shruti, man becomes freed of all sins by meditating upon Kundalini as within, above and below the flame, as Brahma, as Shiva, as Sura, and as Parameshwara himself, as Vishnu, as Prana, as Kalgini, and as Chandra. By within the flame is meant the excellent Kala, or Nada Rupa, above Kundalini's threefold coil. This is what has been said by the author of this Lailattara Hyasya. She, Para, is wonderfully skillful to create. Ati Kaushala. She it is who possesses the wonderful skill and power of creation. She is the receptacle of that continuous stream of ambrosia flowing from eternal bliss or Brahman. Nityananda Parama Parati Vitalag Piyusha Dhara Dhara. By eternal bliss, that's Nityananda, is meant the Nirguna or attributeless Brahman. Parampara means connected step by step. From Nityananda, which is Nirguna Brahman, there arises in its aspect as Saguna Brahman. From Saguna Brahman, Shakti. From Shakti, Nada. From Nada, Bindu. And from Bindu, Kundalini. Chitkala is another form of Kundalini. It is thus that the ambrosia comes step by step to Parmeshwari, the Chitkala. She is Nityananda Parampara. That is, she belongs to the chain of emanation from Nityananda downwards, and she is the Ati Vigalat Piyusha Dhara Dhara. That is, she is the receptacle of the stream of ambrosia which flows copiously from Nityananda. This compound word may be interpreted to mean that she holds the copious flow of ambrosia caused by her union with the Brahman. From Nityananda, this nectar comes to Parabindu and passes through the Agnya Chakra, Vishuddha Chakra, and so on, until it reaches the Muladhara, and this nectar is that of which she is the receptacle. To interpret it to mean this, the entire word is read as one. Verse 13. By meditating thus on her who shines within the Mula Chakra, with the luster of 10 million suns, a man becomes lord of speech and king among men, and an adept in all kinds of learning. He becomes ever free from all diseases, and his inmost spirit becomes full of great gladness. Pure of disposition, by his deep and musical words, he serves the foremost of the Devas. Commentary. In this verse, the author speaks of the benefit to be derived from meditating on Kundalini. By Mula Chakra is meant the Muladhara. It is the root of the 6 chakras, hence its name. Within Mula Chakranta Vivara Lasat Koti Surya Praksham. She shines in the Muladhara Chakra like 10 million suns shining at one and the same time. His deep and musical words, Vakai Kavya Parabandhai. His speech is musical and full of meanings, as in a poetical composition. He serves, Sevate. He uses his words in hymns of praise and for purpose of a like nature. He pleases them by words of adoration. All the foremost of the Devas, Sakala Sura Gurun. The word guru here means excellent, and the author by Sura Gurun means Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, the principal Devas. Amara says that by adding the words Singha or lion, Sharadula or tiger, Naga or serpent, etc., to a male name implies excellence. Summary. The Muladhara is lotus of 4 petals. The petals are red and have the letters Va, Va, Sha, Sha, and that's palatial, Sh, Sha, and that's cerebral, Sa, Sa, in colors of gold. In the pericap is the square Dhara Mandala, surrounded by 8 spears, and within it and in the lower part is the Dhara Bija, who has 4 arms and is seated on the elephant Airavata. He is color of yellow and holds the thunderbolt in his hands. Inside the Bindu of Dhara Bija is the child Brahma, who is red in color and has 4 hands with which he holds the staff, the gourd, the Rudraksha rosary, and makes the gesture which dispels fear. He has 4 faces. In the pericap there is a red lotus on which is the presiding divinity of the chakra, that's the chakra Dishti Tari, the Shakti Dakini. She is red and has 4 arms, and in her hands are Shula, Katvanga, Khadga, and Chasika. In the pericap there is also the lightning-like triangle, inside which are Kamavayu and Kamabija, both of which are red. Above this is the Swayambhu Linga, which is Shyama Varna. And above and round this linga is Kundalini coiled 3.5 times. And above this last upstands on the top of the linga Chit Kala. This is the end of the first section.